Shohei Ohtani is in the news cycle like crazy right now, and it's not because of Ruthian prowess on the baseball field. His former translator and manager, Ipe Mizuhara, has turned himself into federal custody. What the hell is happening? Hello, all you beautiful people. World's Okayest lawyer here. What a time to be alive. No one ever thought that we could see someone like Babe Ruth, who, in a lot of ways, Ohtani is actually better. However, we're here to discuss what is rotten in the City of Angels. There are folks all over the place arguing online. You have talking heads pointing to an indictment saying, "See, Ohtani is innocent." You have others pointing to the whole situation saying they'd know if $20 was missing from their account, much less millions. So let's start with, what is an indictment? It merely means that a police force, whether city, county, state, or federal, has probable cause to a crime based on either something the officer witnessed or through an investigation. It is a very low bar of proof. How I explain it to my clients is that short of a space alien coming down, doing the crime, looking like you, then shooting off into space, you freaking did it. If you watch TV and someone says, "It was a white guy in a green hoodie that robbed a bank," for example, and you happen to be a white guy wearing a green hoodie 2 blocks away, guess what? You're getting detained and possibly arrested. Why? Because you matched the description of the alleged perpetrator. So very low bar here. Second, what is an allegation? Legally, an allegation is an assertion that one person has done something wrong, often without proof. So going back to the white guy in a green hoodie, let's say that he's just a Notre Dame Fighting Irish fan. It's a cold day and he just wanted to run down to the bodega to grab an energy drink. Goes there, turns around, and is stopped by police on the way back. Innocent, right? Well, it isn't enough of an allegation. Well, it is enough of an allegation, along with probable cause, for the police to stop and detain this fellow in order to determine whether or not he's just a white guy wearing a green hoodie versus the white guy wearing a green hoodie that robbed the bank. See how allegation and probable cause go kind of hand in hand there? Lastly, what is RICO? RICO is the Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act, or RICO, R-I-C-O, and it is a United States federal law that provides for extended criminal penalties and a civil cause of action for acts performed as part of an ongoing criminal investigation. This was born out of the government's desire to stop mob activities, particularly in Chicago and New York. If you don't know what the mob is, in New York, the most powerful for a long time was the Italian mob, who had various families. Sometimes these families would fight, and sometimes they would do business together. They would often force companies in their territory to pay a protection fee, thus shaking down companies for a piece of the profit. What RICO did is, when a crime was performed by the lowest individual in the family or the organization as a whole, that crime could be attached to the leaders in the family, as they were all part of what they call a RICO will. So they're all part of the same circle of the crime. So if you have somebody that has been in the family, in quotation marks, and they've only been there for a week, they go out and do a crime. Let's say they embezzle something, or they steal something from, let's say liquor, or, they shake down somebody for a quote-unquote protection fee. That could actually be attached to the head of the family. So how does this sort of thinking go into the case against Mizuhara in the alleged gambling ring? In reading the 37-page report, Mizuhara was Ohtani's translator for everything in the United States. If you are not aware, Ohtani does not speak English well, no matter what you see in the New Balance of video game commercials. In the indictment, there are certainly some shady dealings with Mizuhara. First, and what the case is about regarding Ohtani, Ohtani had one bank account outside of the control of his U.S. sports agent. So Ohtani actually has several accounts. but the account that's in question is actually the money that he gets from his playing contract. So anything he did for the Angels and now the Dodgers, this is the account where that money went. And so I said U.S. sports agent because he has an agency that represents him in the United States and a separate agency that represents him in Japan. Ohtani's U.S. sports agent requested access to the account in question, so the one where the money from his game day checks was going. Mizuhara declined access to Ohtani's account. What Mizuhara allegedly did was change the notification email address for transactions, along with moving upwards of $16 million out of this singular bank account. He moved this money to cover his gambling losses with illegal bookies, which is what you would call somebody that you place a bet with because they have a book of things that you're going to gamble upon. And there was more than one. In my opinion, I believe the bookies were being investigated when Ohtani's name started popping up on the bank wires, making him part of this RICO will, if you will. So now it sounds like Mizuhara will likely plead guilty to the crime of theft to the $16 million. However, there's still a lot of questions not being asked of Ohtani that I feel doesn't make sense. For example, over a 3-year period, how does one not know that $16 million is missing? I'm going to give some context. If you had $100 and $16 goes missing, do you look for it? If you have $1,000 and $160 goes missing, do you look for it? If you have $100,000 and $16,000 goes missing, do you look for it? If you have $50 million and $16 million goes missing, do you look for it? The basis of my questions is something just doesn't make sense to me. Now, I am not accusing necessarily Ohtani of gambling through an intermediary while using his own account, but where is the accountant in all of this? Who did his taxes? Because even though he's a Japanese citizen, he is still required to report all of his income on his IRS tax statements. So as he plays baseball in the United States, again, he would have to file taxes. Gambling, even illegal gambling, is subject to Section 61 of the tax code. So any movement over $10,000 is also flagged by banks. Now, to kind of stomp on some of the conspiracy theories online, filing taxes is not an automatic knee-jerk for Ohtani being part of this. If you gamble through legal sources, if you have any winnings, you will receive a 1099 during tax season to file your taxes. Illegal gambling sources will not do that because, well, they're illegal. Ohtani, when the initial report came out, it stated that $4 million of his money had been used for gambling, was essentially portrayed as an innocent child that doesn't understand the ways of the world. In other words, he was characterized as stupid. Folks, let me tell you, he graduated high school in Japan. Ohtani is far from dumb. Their schools are very tough and some of the best in the entire world. So that feels like a red flag to me. He's not stupid. So what would that mean at $16 million? So he was this innocent, stupid person at $4 million. What does $16 million make him? So in my World's Okayest opinion, I think there are 3 reasonable scenarios for Ohtani in this case. Scenario 1, Ohtani is just an innocent idiot who knows nothing about anything except playing baseball, including managing a bank account. This could be that maybe he just has so much money at this point that he just doesn't even notice. Maybe it's because Mizuhara was a trusted friend, advisor, and manager, so Ohtani just went with everything he said. So maybe Ohtani is just an innocent idiot. Scenario 2. Ohtani covered the expenses for his friend, then lied to investigators when this incident became national news, now claiming the funds were stolen, which is also a crime. You can't lie to investigators. If this is the true scenario, as it would be, again, a federal crime, Section 1001 of Title 18 of the United States Code prohibits knowingly and willfully making false or fraudulent statements or concealing information in any matter within the jurisdiction of the federal government in the United States, even by merely denying guilt when asked by a federal agent, which Ohtani has. He has denied guilt in this case. The penalty for this would be an imprisonment of not more than 5 years. So if this is what Ohtani did, it's not good. He would have been better off admitting that he helped his friend while not being complicit in the illegal gambling charge. It's also not unreasonable that a friend helps one another. Hell, I've given free legal to my friends and family to make sure they were okay. Scenario 3. Ohtani was complicit in the illegal gambling. If I'm being honest, I feel like this is the least likely scenario. However, we've seen fighters and other athletes place bets specifically on themselves, their team success, which would be no different than Pete Rose. In my world's okayest opinion, I think it's unlikely that Ohtani is an idiot. I just don't see a scenario where Ohtani could not see that $16 million had gone missing from his account over a 3-year span. That's, do the math on that. That's more than $4 million a year that goes missing. It's more than $5 million a year that goes missing. That doesn't make sense. If it was in all of his U.S. bank accounts, which are managed by others, I could see how he could be stolen from over time without him noticing because it's managed by other people. I think it is unlikely that Ohtani was gambling on sports. Ohtani, because he's not an innocent idiot, is too smart to gamble on sports, then losing his face of the league image he has developed. I believe it is likely that Ohtani covered his friend's losses. It is just what makes the most sense. Now, do I believe without an admission that Ohtani could be convicted beyond a reasonable doubt? No. Beyond a reasonable doubt is just such a high bar. Think of it as something like 98% sure Ohtani did this. He said, he is just, it's just not enough without an admission or something else to show Ohtani helped his friend. Do I believe that I could get a grand jury indictment against Ohtani? Hell yeah, I do. It is such a low bar. Think of it as 10 to 25% sure Ohtani did the crime. This is how we see some folks get charged, then indicted for a crime. So charge is what the police do. Indictment is what the government is going to try to get from a grand jury. But then beat the indictment because the government is unable to meet that very high bar of beyond a reasonable doubt with a judge or jury, depending whether it is a bench trial versus a jury trial. Now, I am not tracking any basis for a civil trial to take money and property from Ohtani if he lied to federal officers. If it turns out Ohtani was an active participant in the illegal gambling, then under RICO, the federal government could sue Ohtani for upwards of treble damages to any damages associated with the entirety of the scheme. So what is treble damages? Treble damages means upwards of 3 times damages. So let's say that the bookies and all of their schemes created $100 million in some sort of damage. Ohtani could potentially under RICO be liable for that upwards of $300 million. But again, I just don't think that, this is what he did. I'm just trying to explain, everything at this point. 300 upwards of, in this example, $300 million that Ohtani would be liable for. It's not fair, but it's no different than getting hit by a car in, Disney World's parking lot. Do you sue the driver with a $30,000 policy, or do you sue Disney because they are worth billions? This is the same sort of deal. If the bookies just don't have money, then they go after the guy who does. They go after the guy who just signed the big ass, hundreds of millions of dollars of contract. So to wrap it up, in my world's okayest opinion, I believe Ohtani helped his friend to cover his gambling losses. It just makes the most sense to me, as I don't believe that Ohtani is an ignorant idiot. However, I've been wrong before, and certainly do not have more information than what is public. And then I just don't believe that he, did any sort of gambling. I just think it was the likely scenario is he covered his friend's loss. Like what I had to say? Please be sure to follow, like, subscribe, and share me on whatever social media you saw this posted. I cannot thank you enough for listening to what my world's okayest opinions are. Lastly, it costs $0 to be kind. It's the best money that you'll ever spend. Until next time, beautiful people. Peace.